I thought this was cool. Tree A, I let it do whatever it wanted. Tree B, I've only let it grow fruit this year, as in I would always just pick off the fruit, thinking it might put the energy into the foliage and the growing, and sure enough, same amount of sunlight, same amount of water, same amount of food, and there you have it. Tree B is a Chad alpha tree, and tree A is, well, you know, I'm sure he's got a great personality. Just quickly, if you are interested in the rust proofness of H2 steel, check out this video here. This is the one with all the rust testing in it. Anyway, back to the video. Alrighty, so you all know the Stretch 2, very recommended knife by me. It's probably the knife I'd suggest getting someone who's not yet into knives as their first knife. It's got, you know, a good basic model in VG10 steel, which will suit most people, or if you're a bit more of a steel spaz like me, you can pick yourself up the K390 version, which is going to have all those real nerdy elements to it, like high vanadium steel, super long edge retention, needing a bit more fuss and bother over keeping it untarnished, which I'm failing at, as you can tell. But yeah, it's got a lot going for it, and it's just really user accessible. A mid-lock back, everyone knows how to use that straight away, very intuitive, great overall knife. So when I saw there was an XL version of the Stretch 2, I thought, well, I'd better give that a try because that excites me. Oh my god, fuck off with your dumb little plane. No one cares, dickhead. Anyway, so it's a longer, larger version of the Stretch 2, just by a little bit. It's not huge, but it is sort of more slender. It actually doesn't feel like much more of a heavy knife. It's just kind of a different shape, and therefore, you know, a slightly longer, more stretched version of the Stretch 2. So you've just got a little bit less going on here, just by a millimeter or so, than this part here, you know, just pinching the two of them together. These two fingers are a little bit closer together than these two fingers. You know, everything else is just a little bit more slender. It's kind of like a cross between this and the Spyderco Police 4. It's like if they had a baby, they'd probably have something that looked a bit like the Stretch XL. So as such, it's still a very, very comfortable knife in the hand. So wrapping your hand around the Stretch 2 XL and the Stretch 2 Standard, I think you get the best of the FRN Spydercos. I like that it's got the finger choil. The only other of the FRN Spydercos that has the finger choil is the Police 4, and the Dragonfly 2. Dragonfly 2 is a much smaller knife, entirely different thing, and the Police 4 is entirely almost too slender and sort of oval shaped, and is a bit of an odd knife in the hand. As much as I really, really like that knife, it's definitely not for everyone. So this has got, and this has got a really good mix of the good attributes of the FRN, whilst having some more modern things that maybe have been inherited from the Paramilitary 2, like forward finger choils and, you know, slightly improved ergonomics. The Delica and Della and Dura are sort of looking a bit more old-fashioned these days as time goes on. So yeah, really, really liking the ergonomics of this knife, and it is still the same mid-lock back, which engages, disengages without a worry at all. Only issues I've ever had with any sort of lockbacks was when I had them in pants that had been washed with a tissue in the pocket, and a bit of that tissue got sort of static electricity up into this part here, and I remember once opening the knife and it just kind of went oomph, and I realized immediately that the knife was not fully locked open, so there wasn't a big accident and no one died. I just went and then out it came. So that's about the only issue I've ever had with lockback knives. I know if you're absolutely wailing on them, then you can sort of jolt it free and it can come loose. But again, as abnormal as I am in lots of ways, I'm a pretty normal knife user with how I treat my blades, and never really had an issue with lockbacks at all. It's got a standard Spyderco mid carry pocket clip. There's a few Spyderco clips. I don't love many of them. but they always do the job. They definitely retain the knife in the pocket, and it's got a cool little thought put into it that the clip rests on a bit of sort of a smoothed out piece of handle, so it's not overly grippy and tearing at your pocket. Nothing like having a hobby that everyone has to enjoy vicariously. Right, so yeah, really enjoy this. I used to recommend, the American Lawman 2 as your first knife. The American Lawman 2, just the American Lawman by Cold Steel, and that's still a great first knife. But a couple of things, namely that the clip isn't as much of a pocket biter as on the Lawman. Those Cold Steel G10 clip combinations are pretty aggressive, and also the mid-lock back, I think, despite not being as strong as the Triad, just a bit more easy to use, a bit of a gentle push required. And I like the little sort of scalloping they do on it. Makes it a bit more tactile and nice, So yeah, really great first knife, and this one's continuing the trend of it being really great in hand. I do believe the Stretch is Sal's favorite knife. He's the Spyderco man, so that's got to say something for it, doesn't it? So yeah, overall, handles, general comfort, pocketability, as good as the standard Stretch 2, absolute win. Now we need to talk about the blade. Now, I don't want to get political, but I think 17 degrees on either side, so a 34-degree inclusive edge, is the basic measure of whether a steel is good for EDC or not. You may not like your edges all at 17 degrees. Maybe you're just a 20-degree per side normie. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. But I just think in my head, my little metric is if a steel can hold 17 degrees and do normal jobs, then it's a good steel. And it's served me pretty well so far, because you know what can do that? Buck 420 HC can hold a 17-degree edge and do all sorts. So it doesn't mean it's eliminating all but the most glamorous steels. HCR 13 MOV can. VG10 can, pretty obviously, it's a kitchen knife steel. But, it's not a high bar, I don't believe. This steel here, in my experience so far, can't quite do it. It seems to want to roll very easily from a 17-degree edge. And as such, I'm not over the moon with H2. It doesn't hold an edge very long. It holds an edge for about as long as a good 420 HC. It holds an edge for less long than VG10, holds an edge for much less long than what I would say is a competitor steel, LC200N. And so I sort of am left to wonder what the point of it is. I do believe it is likely the most supremely rust-proof steel. And the Salt series, I think, I may be misreading it, but I feel like the idea behind the Salt series is to make possibly more emergency cuts in those proper waterlogged environments. So maybe you're only going to use it a few times in your life, but when you do, you want it to absolutely cut. That's why so many of them are serrated, I think, as well. So the Salt series may be for sitting in that tackle box, sitting in that kayak emergency port, clipping onto your vest or whatever, and then when you need it to cut, it's going to be sharp enough and it's going to cut, but you're not going to be EDCing it. I think that's the point of the H2 line of knives and the Salt line in general. That being said, they are now moving into Magna Cut and all sorts. So yeah, I guess that's why it's probably not a huge concern for Spyderco to sell a knife in this sort of softer steel at their standard factory edge, which is going to be about 20 degrees per side. It'll be fine for their intended purpose. Now you notice here that the edge is hollow ground. And I like a hollow ground edge, but it is something that Spyderco very rarely do, aside from on knives in the H1 and H2 steels. And I believe that is because they also know that this isn't going to be the most edge-retaining steel. And I think that a hollow grind supports the geometry and means that even if your edge apex isn't 100% sharp anymore, you've still got some geometries to do perhaps a high octane cut. Like if you need something gone and cut, there's a lot less meat behind this edge. So it will, even if the edge isn't going so great, the geometry will cut. And I think that is the reason behind this hollow grinding of a lot of the H series, Salt series knives by Spyderco. But yeah, in my testing, I did just basic stuff. I've had this knife for about 2 months now, 3 months now. And in my everyday use, as well as in my reviews type use, it just doesn't hold up compared to even very basic stainless steels for that purpose of use. Again, it's probably a purpose-driven knife that isn't for me and my EDC knife nerd knife reviewer bullshit. That's entirely possible. But as such, if you're going to be looking at this knife, I would really suggest just getting the VG10 version, which is about the same price. Or you know what, go all the way up and get the K390 version. I don't know if there's any sort of sprint. Sometimes Bento Box, Knife Joy do a few, sprinty variations of this. I'd love to see this knife just in like a standard Spy 27. I think that'd be a really great intermediary between this and VG10, and then this. I think that would be a great idea. But overall, pattern is great. Really, really like the XL size. It's really comfortable in hand. Absolutely a good user knife, but just for me, my purposes, the H2 steel doesn't quite hit home for me. So that'll be my review on the knife. Just as a aside, another thing I've found with H2 is that it's incredibly easy to sharpen, but it's a bit of a stone clogger. So you get a lot out of it. It's I think just the whatever it's made of is just full of those sort of like softer materials, those filler sort of carbide holders. I don't know what it is, but I just noticed myself needing to clean my stones immediately after, and even I think one point during it, and the couple of times I've sharpened this. So, and that's on fixed systems as well as on bench stone systems. So, just something a little interesting there. Just the H2 steel is really not a home run for me. And I would actually lean into saying that I actually quite dislike it. So. But at any rate, just my opinion, it's just my opinion, right? If you love this, if you love it for its very specific use, and that's the specific use that you have, then more power to you, my friends. At any rate, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and leave a comment. Perhaps tell me what you think of this steel. I'm looking at more of my comments lately. I've noticed less angry Thanksgiving uncles hiding in the toilets, rage commenting lately. So I've been in the comments a little bit more. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.